It's being called the biggest public health crisis in the Western Hemisphere, and we're living right in its epicenter. The Tijuana River watershed covers over 1,700 square miles between the U.S. and Mexico, draining into one of the last untouched wetlands along the Pacific coast. But it's turned the southwestern tip of the U.S. into a biohazardous septic tank that's only getting worse. According to studies conducted by both UCSD and SDSU, the water is tainted with raw sewage, industrial runoff, and toxic sludge laced with lead, banned pesticides, hydrogen sulfide, and arsenic, which, fun fact, the California Department of Public Health has attempted to downplay, calling the university studies flawed and insisting that there's no immediate threat. Which is less fun and more infuriating because the health impacts are both real and horrifying. Families in Imperial Beach and San Isidro are reporting headaches, stomach illness, and increasingly severe respiratory issues. The pollution stems from both industrial waste dumped by factories south of the border, as well as Tijuana's outdated sewer system, which typically floods when it rains, sending further contaminants flowing into the U.S. In fact, there's a pollution hotspot at Saturn Boulevard where an elevation drop aerosolizes the contaminants, and which is considered so toxic that researchers have literally had to send in drones to collect samples because their scientists were at risk of, dying a little. And here's the kicker. 11 schools sit within about 2 miles of that hotspot, which means that children are literally inhaling airborne toxins while trying to learn, making the biggest lesson here the fact that their state and local governments are failing them. Because even though many local officials are taking the matter seriously, they can only do so much on their own. Meanwhile, Governor Newsom, the man who sprints to microphones and Twitter during other catastrophes, has neglected to declare this issue as the emergency that it very clearly is. Apparently, the poisoning of entire communities doesn't meet his definition of urgent. It's almost as if Imperial Beach and San Isidro don't count because they're lower income, working class neighborhoods filled with minorities. In fact, it seems as though many lawmakers didn't start addressing the issue in earnest until people in the wealthy enclave of Coronado, a tourism hotspot just up the coast, started complaining about it as well, which certainly sounds a lot like environmental racism to me. And yes, officials point to new binational agreements and improved treatment plants. But here's the problem. Tijuana's consistent growth continues to overwhelm its infrastructure. By the time these fixes are put in place in 2027, the system will likely already be outdated, making it less of a cure and more of a flimsy band-aid. Meanwhile, people are missing work and school, getting sicker and racking up medical bills. And even Navy SEALs, some of the toughest humans on the planet, are getting sick. In fact, they've had to train away from their base in Imperial Beach due to the contamination, which only proves that the federal government is well aware of how bad the situation is. If the Navy's elite warriors can't handle the water in San Diego, then maybe, just maybe, it's a crisis. So, what do? Pressure. Pressure on Newsom to put on a tie and declare an emergency. Pressure on Washington to treat this like the national security issue they know it is. Pressure on Tijuana to include a long-range discharge pipe instead of emptying sewage right along the coast. Pressure on U.S. companies that profit from Tijuana's lax regulations to stop adding to the pollution and maybe boycott their products until they do. Because until leaders feel more heat from us than they do from polluters, kids in the South Bay will keep waking up at night unable to breathe. And if that doesn't scare you, then you may already be dead inside.